I've heard a lot of people say lately that they don't really like the legendary tier French cruiser Henri IV, so I decided to take it out for a spin a little bit last night. It's been a while since I've played the ship too extensively, so I was wondering if it is indeed mediocre, as some of the community seems to think. I've got Andre Roux at the helm for the commander, mostly because he's a freely obtainable commander. So are the inspirations on the build. And that way, you know, when you're watching this video, that nothing I'm doing here is being helped by paid commanders, like Azerlane Saint Louis, for example. That commander's really good. I might choose her over Rue if I was just playing regularly and not trying to sort of test something. But I think having Rue on here and showing you this game is a good demonstration that you don't necessarily need a paid commander in order to do well. In fact, you don't need radar or sonar in order to do well either. I've seen a lot of that as perhaps a reason why people think Henri is not so good. It doesn't have the utility of radar or sonar. It's just got a main battery reload booster, which, to be fair, can be a very good tool against enemy destroyers. It can help take them out quite quickly, but of course you need them to be spotted by somebody else first, most likely. Or you can spot them with your face. We'll be doing that a little bit later on in this battle, and demolishing an enemy destroyer. Although I don't remember if we used the reload booster or not. We'll have to see. In any case, the consumables probably aren't the reason why people think the ship is a little bit underwhelming. I would assume that has more to do with the main battery guns, because I think there's always been sort of this hang-up amongst the Legends community where not having a very quick reload on your cruiser automatically means it's bad because you have, I guess, less DPM than cruisers with a faster reload. And to be fair, we do have an 11.7-second reload on this build, which is perhaps not great, but they are 240 millimeter guns, and there's 9 of them. The HE parameters are really good. With Rue, we get a little buff to the HE maximum damage, and we do 3,536. The armor is also good on the ship. Well, it's decent anyway. You might not realize it from seeing that citadel that the Iwami got on us, but that's because we were broadside and we didn't angle the armor. If you do angle the armor, it is 30 millimeter plating across the upper belt and the deck. So 30 millimeters is more than enough to bounce 16-inch guns if the armor is properly angled. If not, well, then you can expect to take damage, but we get away relatively unscathed from the Iwami B, losing maybe a third of our HP at most after deploying the first of our 3 repair parties. The guns also have good fire chance, 22%, which is quite nice for things that reload in 11 seconds and do over 3,000 maximum damage on the HE. You saw the double fire there against the Iwami. And the AP, which unfortunately I don't think we'll get a great example of in this game, the AP does a maximum damage of 6,200, and because it's French, it has great pen, even at long distances. I think that's sort of the calling card of French AP. It does not have the improved penetration angles of the Americans, for example, but the shell velocity is good, the penetration is also good even at long range, and you can't sleep on the AP. You certainly don't want to be giving broadside to the Henri or really any other French heavy cruiser. If you are playing a cruiser, you will be made to pay for it, especially if the French cruiser has a reload booster ready to go. Plus, you know, these guns, while they may not reload very quickly, the damage against destroyers is good thanks to the high alpha on the HE, and also the penetration of these guns is pretty good too. At 240 millimeters, I believe these guns get the regular HE pen. So if you divide 240 by 6 to calculate the HE pen, you'll see we've got 40 millimeters of armor pen. Perhaps not as good as relatively new additions to the game, like the Hindenburg, for example. Nobody really has that ship now except for the community contributors, but once the marathon is over and it becomes widely proliferated across the community, Then I expect we'll see quite a few of them, and the Hindenburg, I believe, pens 50 millimeters of armor. It also has a faster reload than the Henri, but at the same time, the HE Alpha is pretty anemic, with it being German compared to the Henri. Now, that doesn't mean it can't rack up a tremendous amount of damage with the HE. It certainly can, but it's not as if the Henri is a huge slouch in comparison. It's actually quite good. In any case, we've decided to abandon the flank on the Thunderdome side of this map, mostly because if we push in, that's going to be giving the Awami and the defense an advantage. We don't want to push into kiting ships. Instead, we've seen an opportunity, or at least a window of opportunity, in the center of the map. Both of the enemy battleships have essentially kited into oblivion near the map border. So the only thing in the center is this Alaska, who's busy looking into the Thunderdome, and at least one enemy destroyer. We're going to go this way in hopes that the enemy destroyer will be spotted. There's Vampire 2. We are trying to, zig and zag in order to avoid torpedoes, which we do for one set there, but I believe those torpedoes came courtesy of this Elbing, so I wasn't quite expecting him to be there. And really, this sequence here breaks my heart. I do love the Elbing very much, and I was very hesitant to turn broadside to it, but we don't want to be giving broadside to Alaska. And thankfully, the Elbing apparently does not realize that the AP is the calling card of that ship, because he shoots us with HE, and we're able to take him out for our first kill of the game. If you're going to play the Elbing, you really, I think, should be shooting AP all the time. The only time you should ever be shooting HE is if you cannot get any penetrations with the AP, or maybe if you're trying to light a fire because you just hit somebody with a torpedo. I'm pretty sure the Elbing could have citadeled us at that range had he chosen the AP, and this might not have made it onto YouTube if he did that. In any case, now we're facing off against the Alaska, a very powerful ship who is going to give us broadside, but I've always found the Alaska's citadel somewhat tricky to hit. Even with this AP, which as you can see does decent damage, no citadels. We get one shatter. Interesting, must have been against the torpedo protection. Another AP salvo out as the Alaska is healing. Nearly enough to take him out, but not quite. He's going to be sailing into that cap, and I don't think he's much longer for this world. He's being shot at by the friendly DD over there, and there's not a lot of hit points for that guy to take off. Now, though, the battle is fairly close. It's a 5v4 in favor of the blue team, so we do need to be careful here, but if all goes well, we are about to have the Bravo cap and perhaps the Alpha cap next. HMS Defense out there makes it an even 4v4 by taking away one of our two remaining enemy battleships, and there is a destroyer over here. Another good thing about the Henri, by the way, as you see us doing 44 knots and counting, is that this ship has great speed. Andre Roux at the helm buffs the base speed by some amount. We enjoy, with this build, a base speed of 39 knots, and that's before we deploy the 20% engine boost. Most engine boosts in this game are 8% buffs. The French get the special 25%, and with that engine boost on the Henri, you can zip around the map very quickly. You can avoid shots just by virtue of speed, and of course by virtue of turning. The ship doesn't have a fantastic agile rudder shift time. It's 9.6 seconds, which is not great. You could buff that a little bit, I suppose, if you wanted to run the rudder mods. I'm not doing that. I've got the propulsion mod and the concealment mod instead of any rudder buffs, but you could do that and make it a little bit more agile. It wouldn't necessarily be a terrible idea to give up propulsion, but then again, the ship can stop and start very quickly, especially when the engine boost is active, and being able to do that at long distance can help you avoid battleship salvos in sort of the same way you might do it on a Khabarovsk with stopping and starting, throttle juking and the like. The Henri's pretty good at that too. And if you catch an enemy destroyer dead to rights, like this Shimakaze, who is almost certainly going to be torpedoing us now that he's seen us, well, he's not going to be long for this world, particularly if we deploy the main battery reload booster. The dispersion on the shells perhaps is not the best for that initial salvo, but the subsequent two are dealing a lot of damage to him and netting us the Confederate medal. That's one way you can tell if you're doing well in the game and having good battle impact. You get the Confederate medal if you remove a certain amount, or a certain percentage rather, of HP from, I think, 4 enemy ships. I think it's more than 40% of their HP, if I'm not mistaken. Could be completely wrong about that, but in any case, the rewards for this game in terms of XP earned, credits earned, etc., those are determined in large part by the percentage of HP you remove from an enemy ship, not by your total damage number at the end, which is why by the end of things, we're not going to have the most impressive total damage you've ever seen, but the XP is going to be over 3k, thanks in large part to so efficiently dealing with the HP on both the Shimakaze and the Elbing earlier. Here we make a terrible mistake, I suppose. The defense, of course, has bow-launched torpedoes that he can launch single file. We take one because his spread is just a little bit too big. But we are close enough to the defense that we are going to be proxy spotted by him behind the island. I was trying to turn away, but his proxy spotting reveals us to the enemy Iwami, who earlier got a citadel on us and has spent the rest of the game kiting out of the flank that he spawned on, and is now on the complete other side of the map, where he just so happens to have shots at us over the island. And he takes us out, which is unfortunate, but it's all right. The friendly team is going to be able to deal with the rest of these guys. We've got Yamato in here coming around the corner to chase defense out of his hiding spot. As long as Yamato doesn't get nuked by the torpedoes of the defense like I did, he's probably all right. And then Iwami, well, he's pushing in with no friends against a Shimakaze and a Lucian, both of whom have tremendous torpedo power, so I wouldn't expect him to be able to complete this push without losing most of his remaining HP. Looks like the initial torpedoes from the Shimakaze miss. However, the deep water torpedoes, which in my opinion are much scarier, from the Lucian, well, the Iwami doesn't see them until they're right on top of him, so he takes one right in the nose, and then the Shimakaze torpedo makes contact. He goes down very quickly, thanks to the 2 remaining friendly DDs, and that just leaves the defense, who is still playing around this island with the Yamato. But really, if he has any hope of winning this game, he's got to sink the Yamato literally right now, and then he's got to try to push into both of these enemy destroyers and sink them too. Because as you can see, we're at 954 points, and we're probably going to hit 1,000 before another ship in this battle even sinks, unless this Shima and this Lucian are able to shave down the rest of this guy's HP. Don't quite remember if that happens, but in any case, we finish this match in the Henri IV with the Confederate high-caliber medals, 2 kills, 2 assists, and about 150,000 damage done. Again, the damage is not hugely impressive, but the high caliber and the Confederate indicate that we had a good amount of battle impact, and our XP is going to show the same at the end. So, all in all, even though this ship does not have the tools like sonar and radar, really the most important thing in this game is positioning the ship properly to be effective. And if you can do that, and you enjoy the French cruiser gameplay, I don't see why you wouldn't enjoy the Henri. I think it's a pretty good ship myself. It's certainly not the best cruiser at Legendary tier, probably not even close, but it's not bad, and it's not completely not worth playing. It is the pinnacle of the French heavy cruiser line. Well, maybe the Saint Louis is, I suppose. Henri's a little bit different, but it's not bad, is the bottom line here. Let me know what you think, though. Feel free to disagree with me on how good the ship is in the comments section. And give the video a thumbs up. Consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.